transformational shift begins with that little group that we call Communio, the early adopters, the innovators within the church.
We continue with bonus interviews from the Marriage Catechumenate Summit in Houston, Texas. In this episode, you meet JP DeGance. JP is the president and founder of Communio, a nonprofit that helps churches evangelize through the renewal of healthy relationships, marriage, and the family. He's an author and led a nationwide study on faith and relationships, and it has some very interesting findings about Christians in the U.S. He even did a test case in Jacksonville, Florida, where they were able to drive down the divorce rate by 24%. All this is linked below, but in this conversation, JP and Darnell talk about all of that, marriage, and how to bring people back to the Catholic Church. Let's hear from JP.
My name is JP DeGance. I'm the founder and president of Communio. I'm also the co-author of the book Endgame, the Church's Strategic Move to Save Faith and Family in America.
And so that means you have a lot of experience talking about family, talking about marriage. From your experience, whether that's through meeting couples, meeting people, or through the research for writing the book, what are some of the challenges that face marriage today?
The culture no longer provides the air that supports healthy Christ-centered marriages, right? Historically, our culture was heavily reinforcing the marital bond, the marital embrace. And over the last 60 years, that's eviscerated. And whether that is the idea of decoupling sex from marriage, decoupling sex from parenting, decoupling sex from partnering, the idea that marriage is perhaps it's a nice thing, but it's something that I can avail myself of later in life. For all these reasons, marriage is significantly on the decline. And it has huge impact on evangelization, on the future of the gospel, has massive public health impact. 4 out of 5 people sitting in the pews on Sunday, 4 out of 5 grew up in a home where mom and dad stayed married. Okay, and that holds across all generations. We found this in our recent study, the nationwide study on faith and relationships. When you look at if you're a 23-year-old or 25-year-old, you're just as likely to have grown up in an intact married home if you're in church on Sunday as a 60-year-old. What's changed over the last 60 years is family structure. What we see is what church leaders frequently see is less numbers in the pews. They see the apostasy of our young people. Okay, and we run to solve that crisis by doing immediate and direct evangelization to our young people, which is important and needs to be done. But that is treating the symptom. It's treating the effect. The cause of that great apostasy that we're seeing play out in the United States and playing out across the West is the free fall, the collapse of healthy Christian marriages. So if we can actually solve that, we're going to see a great renewal, a great revival. We're going to see the new springtime that Pope John Paul II called for. And I think it's incredibly appropriate that the Pope who called for the new springtime, the new evangelization, was also the Pope of marriage and the family. And I don't think those two things are accidental.
Absolutely not. And I like that you said when they're treating the young adults who are leaving church, they're treating a symptom. And I think this summit is really kind of honing in on that idea of we need to treat what the actual problem is. We got to treat the cause to all the symptoms that we're seeing in the church. What are some of the takeaways that you've had from the summit? What have you seen? What inspires you? What gets you excited?
I'm very hopeful that the focus of the catechumenal way for married life is so deeply focused on relationship.
So I've heard Monsignor Shea say the church moves in generations.
Sure.
So talk about what with this planning, with this implementation, what it's going to take and how long, when we will see the fruits, and what does that mean for the work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis?
Transformational shift begins with that little group that we call Communio, the early adopters, the innovators within within the church, the folks who are who understand that if we don't change the course of how we evangelize, of how we form people, the path in front of us is one of continued decline, of continued human suffering. In our own day, loneliness and isolation as a result of the collapse of marriage and the family are everywhere. And relational nihilism and suffering are everywhere. And the world doesn't know, so many in the world don't know that suffering, that depression, that suicidal ideation, all of that is wrapped up in a rejection of authentic agape love given and received in marriage. I think we have this great opportunity to bring to bring ministry into a very direct, very real felt need. Okay, the loneliest people in church on Sunday are not widows. We found this in our survey of 19,000 churchgoers. The loneliest people in church on Sunday are those who've never married in their 30s. Okay, men and women. Okay, this means these are folks who are suffering, where their lifespan is likely to be 15 years shorter. And there's a lot that we can do to feed these needs so that we can bring relief, but then also bring more souls into an encounter with Jesus Christ.
I mean, any 5-minute glance on any social media platform, it's super evident in just the way people are posting, what they're saying, just the general nihilism that you're seeing around relationships or being burned, or just the pessimism. I do think kind of building, repairing. I can know yesterday, one of the things that they talked about was in marriage preparation, kind of addressing the wounds and having healing ministry as part of that. And I think that is going to be a really important step, because there's a true healing that comes through Christ that is yes, aided by therapy, yes, aided by support groups, but that fullness and healing is only found through Him. And only the church can offer that. And that is what everybody needs. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Hey, thank you so much.
And thank you for your work.
Thank you. It's been great to be here.